Good morning to our listeners of DBS Radio. We are here at the Office of Disaster Management in Jimmet for the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs end-of-year press conference. We will hear from a number of heads of divisions, namely the Office of Disaster Management, the Med Services, and the Dominica Legal Aid Clinic, as well as remarks from the Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs, Honorable Reuben Blackmore, all the heads of divisions, as well as the Acting Police Chief, Mr. Davidson Valerie, and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, Joanne Kondo, is here, and we're about to begin. So we will go straight to the PS of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, Joanne Commodore.
Chief of Police, Acting Mr. Davidson Valerie, to lead us in a word of prayer.
Let us pray. Almighty God and Eternal Father, we thank you for today. We thank you, Lord, for this gathering. That you are God who's worthy of all praise, worthy of all honor, and of all glory. We invite your presence among us, Lord, this morning. Even as we conduct this press conference, we ask, O God, that you will give clarity of thought and speech, and that, Lord, you will anoint the proceedings here today. We ask all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. I have a flu, so please bear with me. I want to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs, the heads of division and the deputy heads, the representatives of the heads, the senior administrative officer of the Ministry of National Security, the other staff of the ministry, members of the press, and anyone who may be watching live. I want to wish everybody good morning. I want to welcome everyone to the end of year or opening of year, whichever you want to call it, press conference for the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs. This is usual for the ministry, and even throughout the year, the ministry has tried to keep the public informed about pertinent or pressing issues. The Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs is one of the largest ministries, not only large, but diverse. We take our mandate to ensure safety, save life and property, improve access to justice, provide legal representation to the state, and provide vital services very seriously. We have had a very interesting year. Through it all, we continue to work together and collaborate to make our ministry and Dominica better. The Ministry of National Security is a vital part of Dominica's drive to become the first climate resilient country in the world, as security, access to justice, delivery of justice and administrative legal processing form the backbone of any proper society. Over the last year, considerable focus was placed on bringing the police back in touch with the communities, and we are very proud of the Police Community Outreach Program, which is an embodiment of the Community Policing Initiative that was the brainchild of the Honorable Minister for National Security. The ministry forms a vital partner in Dominica's digitization drive, and so the year 2023 saw the implementation of an electronic ID card for the Commonwealth of Dominica. The ministry is also currently in partnership with the International Organization of Movement to undertake a project to enhance the capacity of the government to curb irregular migration and improve migrant integration. We held a number of high-level meetings, including an in-country cyber security sensitization and training in June of 2023, to raise awareness to reduce the risk of cybercrimes and implement mechanisms to enhance cybersecurity. You will notice that in the year 2024, cybersecurity is going to become a catchphrase for the entire region. The second ordinary meeting of the Council of Ministers of Immigration was also held in Dominica in April of 2023. The National Climate Outlook Forum and the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum were also held in Dominica in November 2023. I don't want to go too much into that because the ODM and the Met are here today. Several important projects are well underway for the ministry with the aim of improving security and providing proper living and working conditions for important institutions such as the police and prison services. These were undertaken this year. This ministry is one of constant movement and hustle and bustle, and is indeed one of the most dynamic ministries. In the past, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the format today. In the past, we would have invited you to hear an update of every division of our very vast ministry. It was such an influx of information that the public was way too inundated. However, this time, the Honorable Minister had the idea to take a different approach. Therefore, today, only 3 divisions, with 1 on standby, will make presentations. That is the Office of Disaster Management, the Dominica Med Services, and the Dominica Legal Aid Clinic. It is my hope, though, that we can continue to do information bites throughout the year and update you about the work done in other divisions and departments of the ministry. Despite this, all the division heads are present here today to answer any questions on their divisions that the press may have. I want to place on record my thanks to the Honorable Minister for his unrelenting hard work throughout the year, and it has been no different through all the years that I have known him. To each of the division heads, I want to congratulate you on jobs well done for the year. To all staff of the ministry in all departments, I want to thank you for your hard work as we continue to strive for the best for our divisions and country. To the SAO, Ms. Lloyd, and the administrative staff of the ministry, you are a wonderful team, and I hope we continue to grow and improve together. Without any further ado, I will call the Office of Disaster Management, Mrs. Janelle Garraway McPherson, who is the National Disaster Coordinator acting, to give a presentation. That's not making any noise.
Good morning. Good morning to the Honorable Minister, the Permanent Secretary, the heads of the Division of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, the media, listening, and the viewing public. I am Janet Garraway McPherson, Acting National Disaster Coordinator at the Office of Disaster Management. The Office of Disaster Management is the coordinating agency for the implementation of comprehensive disaster management in Dominica. It is a part of the broader National Emergency Planning Organization, known as NEPO, which is responsible for disaster management on the island. Comprehensive disaster management encompasses preparing for, responding to, and learning from adverse events. It requires the input from everyone for success, not only the national system, but the general populace as well. The strategy utilized is to inform, educate, equip, and exercise the national disaster management system, inclusive of the general public. This reporting period covers the calendar year of 2023. The Office of Disaster Management continues to inform and educate people in collaboration with stakeholders. We utilize various media, such as our website at odm.gov.dm, our Facebook page at ODM Dominica 1. Traditional radio medium has also been used, and this includes a radio program dubbed Disasters Are New, which has been held on Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. on DBS Radio. The purpose of this program is to share information on disaster management, interact with the public, and invite stakeholders to also share their experiences. There has been face-to-face school and community engagements also. The administrative function of the Office of Disaster Management moved into a newly constructed building at Jimit fully furnished and equipped with modernized communication, conferencing facilities, and backup power. This facility allows for accommodation of the National Disaster Coordinator, program and field officers, and ancillary staff. Upgrades to the main EOC, or Emergency Operating Center, has also materialized with modernized conferencing and training facilities, monitoring of hydromet and geohazards. Hydromet meaning the monitoring of the island-wide weather network of stations. Geohazard would entail the monitoring of seismic network for earthquakes, volcanoes, and tsunami warnings. These upgrades will significantly increase the ODM's ability to closely monitor and provide timely updates to decision makers, stakeholders, and the public. In keeping with the National Resilience Development Strategy, Dominica 2030, Dominica's topographical and infrastructural characteristics dictates a decentralized framework to meet the demand for access to services and supplies to isolated communities in quick time. This empowers this district and communities to build resilience to hazards. The district emergency operating centers, relief warehouses, have been constructed in Cotton Hill, Portsmouth, and Cassibus to provide alternate locations for coordination of emergency response and prepositioning of relief items. These facilities are also fully equipped and furnished. The intention is to construct a similar facility in each district. Additionally, the purpose-built regional emergency resource centers located at Layu, with a shelter capacity of 150, Jimit shelter capacity of 500, and the Cassibus shelter capacity of 300, were constructed and provide safe and secure shelter for persons who live in vulnerable or less secure housing. To ensure alignment to the mandate and strategy as outlined by the National Disaster Plan, the ODM embarked on training and capacity development programs at district levels with the aim of ensuring that community people are annually trained in updated disaster risk reduction and emergency support skills and practices. For 2023, training and public engagement activity totals as follows: 186 in emergency communications. Note well that VHF-based radios and antennas were installed as part of some of these district trainings. 223 were trained in emergency shelter management, 32 in the damage assessment in the Kalinago and the Cassibus area, 33 in introduction to disaster management for caregivers in the Kalinago territory, 20 in emergency operations center and warehouse management, 24 in CDIMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency logistics systems, 20 in training on geospatial information, data and management, information management for emergency response. 22 community outreach sessions were held in several villages to include Kalinago Territory, Cassibus, 2 Petite Soufrière, Grand Forto Delis, Belleville Chopet to Bagatelle, Granby, and Tetmon. 24 school visits and 16 weekly radio programs. 2 tabletop exercise activities were carried out during 2023 with the support of Israel. A tabletop exercise is an activity in which key personnel are assigned emergency management roles and responsibilities. They gather to discuss various simulated emergency situations and how they are to respond. On 16th June 2023, a tabletop exercise was held at the Cassibus Regional Emergency Resource Center to test the evacuation from Petite Soufrière, Saint-Sauveur, and Good Hope into the regional emergency shelter at Cassibus. On December 8th, 2023, a similar tabletop exercise was conducted at the Pierre Charles Secondary School for Bagatelle, Granby, Tetmon, and environs. All key stakeholders of these relevant localities were involved. The Honorable Minister, Octavia Alfred, Parliamentary Representative for the Cassibus constituency. Also, the Honorable Julian Defoe, Parliamentary Representative for the Petit Savan constituency. Representatives of the police, fire, health teams, district disaster management teams, chairpersons and community members, also to include local government, village councils, and community emergency response teams, and the public. These exercises tested the preparedness and response of community-level emergency response systems, first responders, stakeholders, community groups, and the public. Additionally, the ODM partnered with the Portsmouth Town Council, first responders, along with the international and regional agencies in a simulation exercise as part of a Tsunami Ready recognition program. This was held on 13th December 2023. Community engagements were held before this event to sensitize the public on earthquakes and tsunamis. Work continues on the following: installation and upgrade of the National Seismic Monitoring Network to include a real-time thermographic camera for continuous monitoring of the boiling lake. This is in collaboration with the National Authorizing Office for the EU. Update of the National Disaster Plan with assistance from the Connecting Communities for Climate and Disaster Risk Preparedness Initiative in Dominica. Review of the Comprehensive Disaster Management Bill with assistance from Policy and Regulatory Reform for Resilience Project, PROS. The CDM bill will seek to provide for comprehensive disaster management and for the effective management of emergencies in Dominica and for other related matters. The ODM would like to thank the Honorable Minister, Rayburn Blackmore, and the Permanent Secretary, Ms. Joanne Commodore, for their unwavering and invaluable support and guidance provided to the division. To all the international, regional, and local partners, district disaster chairpersons, and volunteers, thank you for your continued collaboration in support of comprehensive disaster management and for building a resilient nation. To the ODM staff, thank you for your dedication, team spirit, and willingness to go above and beyond. In closing, I implore the public to adopt preparedness as a lifestyle. While we may have advance notice of an approaching storm or hurricane, earthquakes and other negative shocks can happen at any time. Preparedness begins with each individual person. Create family emergency plans, prepare go bags, have on hand at least 3 days supply of food, water, and necessary supplies. Do you know where your emergency shelter is located? Always be alert to your surroundings. Keep updated with credible sources of information. Go out and volunteer in your communities to prepare, mitigate, and respond to emergencies. Have a willing and cooperative spirit and be respectful of others. We have an individual responsibility to keep safe. Therefore, seek to increase your knowledge on disaster preparedness and awareness and know how to respond. The resilience of the nation is dependent on the preparedness and resilience of each individual person, family, and community. Be prepared, be safe. Thank you.
I will now call on Mr. Itoma James, the Senior Met Officer Acting, to give his presentation.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say good morning to the Honorable Minister, Mr. Blackmore, and PS Commodore, and to all the other heads present, also to the media and the listening public. I just want to start this by doing a short recap on the hurricane season for 2023. The hurricane season for 2023 marked a significant occasion for Dominica, as it demonstrated that Dominica, the Met Office, has the capability to provide Dominica with its own weather alerts when we have to. What this means is that we no longer have to depend on any middlemen in providing Dominica with alerts. So Dominica now is able to go directly to the National Hurricane Center and back to the general public. Previously, the Met Office would have to depend on Barbados to have these conversations with the National Hurricane Center, who would then transfer this information to the Met Office and then over to the National Employment, the NEPO, and for a decision to be made as to what alerts should be issued to Dominica. Currently, we skip all of these middlemen, and now we go directly to the National Hurricane Center and then to NEPO, and a decision is then made, and we can now alert the public, which makes things a lot more efficient. The Met Office is particularly proud of this accomplishment and its achievements in issuing these sorts of alerts. In addition, we have last year increased our forecasting ranks. We now have 4 qualified forecasters in the name of Mr. Marshall Alexander, Mrs. Annie Carrot Joseph, Mrs. Vernie Marsley Honore, and myself. We continue to provide Dominica with excellent service, and we hope that we can just continue to improve over the years and offer Dominica even better service as we continue to improve. Last year we had 2 tropical storms that required that we issue alerts. These were Tropical Storm Bert and Hurricane Tammy. Thankfully, we did not get any direct impact from these storms, and we hope that following seasons that we have similar seasons and we don't really have to be building back from these devastating storms. By way of public outreach, the Dominica Met Service partnered with the Disaster Management Office in going out to vulnerable communities to discuss with them and offer advice on how to best prepare for disasters. Like Mrs. Macpherson was saying, disaster preparedness is key, and being ready for these events is not a matter of just hearing this on the radio and being prepared today, but we need to make disaster preparedness a part of our lifestyle. So education is a big part of what the Met Office is about, and we understand that there is a bit of a disconnect between the Met Office and the public, and we intend to continue these educational drives and going out to other communities, gathering information that can assist us in better providing you with the services. So we do intend to continue this. These align perfectly with the ministry and the government's disaster preparedness plans. The programs this year will continue. We will start in March by reaching out to different stakeholders, different groups, namely the Ministry of Agriculture and the different individuals in agriculture, education, the different schools, the private sector, and other stakeholders, including the media, to educate the public on some of the different services that we offer, and educate people on what the information that we provide them actually means, because we understand that some people in the public don't understand exactly what we mean, and reaching out to them and figuring out just how this information should be disseminated and in what format is necessary. So we do intend to continue this and pay a bigger effort in doing that in the coming year. On March 24th, we will culminate all of these programs by celebrating the World Met Day. Usually we celebrate World Met Day together with DOASCO, who are also celebrating the World Water Day. We do this by having a fair at different locations. First time it was at the National Stadium. Last year we had it at the Botanical Gardens. As it continues to grow, we do expect that the general public and the media could show up and demonstrate their support for what it is that we do, while learning of some of the different equipment that we use and how they gather information and what we do with them. Now I would like to touch on some of our climatic services. This is a part of our services that we have that is very much underutilized in the country, and we would like to just try to shine some light on this sector as the Dominica Meteorological Service, over the years, together with this Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, have been developing different climatic services to offer different help to 6 key sectors, namely the Ministry of the Health sector, agriculture, water resource, disaster management, energy, and tourism. Some of these services products include seasonal forecasts. The seasonal forecast would usually encompass 6 months periods that is broken up into 2 different months, well, 2-3 months periods. And we have sub-seasonal forecasts, which in the past would encompass a 2-week period. Now we have improved to be able to give up to 3 to 4 week periods. So these can be tailored and are tailored on different websites that the CIMH and the Met Office host, which will be a bit more specific towards these different industries, different sectors, and that information can be used to plan and prepare policy going forward as it relates to climate and how these sectors can grow or how it will impact these sectors. In November 27th to December 1st of 2023, Dominica had the privilege to host that year, the Caribbean Climate Outlook Forum, the CARICOF. This meeting is a meeting of a coming together of the region's top climate scientists, together with the different stakeholders in the region that can be impacted by climate. And at that meeting, what is done is a forecast for the upcoming season. As we know, there are 2 different seasons in the region. We have our dry season and our wet season. The wet season is usually the time of our hurricane season. So that forecast also includes information on the hurricane season as well. From this meeting, the forecast is generated and a discussion is had with our stakeholders, and that information is then goes back to the different countries, applied and made use of. I would just really like for Dominica and our different sectors to make use of these information, because they can be very important and help in our policy development and planning going forward. So from this meeting, it was decided that Dominica should host its own climate forum, which is called the National Climate Outlook Forum. At that forum, we invited different ministries, different stakeholders, people like the Ministry of Agriculture, DOASCO, the energy sector, and health. There was a particular emphasis on health this year, as the funders and the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology wanted to place some emphasis on Dominica being Dominica being the people that we focus on health for and developing health products. As we know, health can be impacted in Dominica. Health can be impacted by climate, like everything else. So we are aiming to develop products that can help to determine how heat and excessive heat can impact the health of individuals. The different weather systems can impact the breeding of the different vector-borne illnesses like dengue and the transmission of it, and also the ever-present Saharan dust, which can have negative impacts on our health and our respiratory health. Additionally, last year, we have been trying to make some strides and have been successful in upgrading our early warning systems. And together with help from the World Bank, we have gotten a new building which is located at Jimit. This building has in it a media room so that we can now produce our video recordings and present our weather in different formats. We also have an operations room which is equipped with new computers that we can improve our services and what we have, and also a staff quarters which will allow us to be able to do monitoring of our systems overnight during extreme weather. Along with this building, we also had 36 new automatic weather stations. These weather stations are being placed in strategic locations in the country to collect data. These stations have varying capabilities in that some are fully automatic weather stations that measure all of our climatic elements. We have some that do rainfall and river measurements, as in the heights of the rivers at different points, different times, and some do only rainfall measurements. These will fit into our early warning system by allowing us to collect data which can be used to create different thresholds for different communities, so that in the issuance of warnings and alerts, we can be a bit more specific as to what will happen in which community when certain conditions arise. So we are currently still building some of the thresholds, but over the last year that we have collected some data and have an idea as to how we can deal with and issue warnings for some communities, while other communities we are still in the process of developing exactly what we can do for them. But we have the capability and we intend to make the best use of it. This information will also be made available to the public by way of a website that is being developed to display all of the data in real time. So all of the rainfall information, the temperatures, all of those things collected by these instruments will also be available online and available to the public. We are currently in a testing phase of the site, and as soon as that is done and we can confirm the accuracy of what it is that the website shows, we will make this website available to everyone. This year we have seen some growth in the staffing of the Met Office. We have with us two new Met officers, Mr. Devon Matthew and Mr. Dane Charles. I think by now, if you have listened to the weather report, you may have heard them, the two new voices on the radio. We also have someone who I am extremely proud of, and I would like to mention her name. That is Miss Keisha Dubik. She has been with us for about 2 or 3 years. She has demonstrated that it doesn't matter what your disabilities are, but if you intend to be good at something and excel, that you can come out, put your best foot forward, and if given a chance, you will do what you need to do to make things work. And she has been doing an excellent job, and I would just like to commend her on the work that she's doing so far. Additionally, we have, like I said earlier, increased our forecasting staff. We now have 4 forecasters. We also have 3 hydrological officers, persons trained in collection of data from the different rivers and doing different analysis and being able to present that information to the public to make it useful. This will tremendously help our capabilities in providing early warning alerts to our public, as we know that proximity to our rivers and different waterways is one of our main issues, one of the biggest problems that we have as it relates to disasters and hazards in our country. Also, I would just like to end by thanking the Honorable Minister for giving us this opportunity, and the Permanent Secretary, Ms. Commodore, for their unwavering support in the development of our staff. They have seen the importance of restructuring the office and offering us the guidance to get this done and the support so that we can better reflect what the Met Office actually does and reward some of the staff for the hard work that they've been doing for over the years. Also, I would like to thank the CIMH, the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, and the Caribbean Meteorological Organization, the National Hurricane Center, for their continued support in whatever we do in the region in upgrading our services, and not forgetting the Barbados Meteorological Service, who over the years previously had shouldered the burden of providing us with the alerts that would save our lives and is necessary. We are now in a new era where the Met Office can and has the capability to provide these services ourselves, and we just want to assure the public that we are determined to continue upgrading what it is that we provide. We continue to reach out to the public and ensuring that the information that we provide to you is useful and you can understand it. And just want to say thank you for this opportunity. All right, thanks.
Thank you for that. Very well done. I will now call on Mr. Peter Allen, the director of the Legal Aid Clinic, to give his presentation.
Good afternoon. I wish to recognize the Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs, Mr. Rayburn Blackmore, the Permanent Secretary, Ms. Commodore, other heads of departments, all present, all mentioned before, the general public, and the media. The Legal Aid Clinic was established by the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica in partnership with the Dominica Bar Association, with the aim of providing low-cost legal services and representation to low-income individuals with free fees related principally to the ability of the individuals to pay. Here at the Legal Aid Clinic, or at least at the Legal Aid Clinic, we offer legal services at fees that are between 10 and 20% of the average price of private attorneys. For example, just one example, consultation rates at a private attorney's office can range from $100 to $150, whereas at the Legal Aid Clinic, the consultation fee is $20 for a 30-minute consultation. However, for the purposes of obtaining a consultation at Legal Aid Clinic, individuals have to go through a qualification process. In order to qualify for services, individuals must first be residing in Dominica. Second, must meet the clinic's financial eligibility guidelines. That is, you must be earning less than the clinic's threshold amount. That amount is not given to the public, as individuals do try to beat the system by putting false information to ensure they qualify. In order to determine whether one qualifies for services, individuals are required to fill up our assessment form, which is available in office and on the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs website under the section Forms. Once individuals qualify, you're given an appointment for consultation and informed what necessary documents to work with when attending your appointment. In the event an individual does not qualify for legal aid services, they are informed and advised to seek assistance from any of the numerous private attorneys. During the year 2023, the clinic rendered services to 457 individuals with numerous matters. Besides what is recorded, the Legal Aid Clinic provides both legal advice and court assistance where required. The clinic is staffed with 3 qualified attorneys, including the director, and supported by a secretary and more recently with a data entry clerk. During the summer break at university, at least one law student is engaged at the clinic in order to have hands-on experience in the wide range of legal services that the clinic provides. The Legal Aid Clinic is also a department of the Ministry of National Security that is tapped when the need arises for an attorney to act in a vacant legal department such as the registry. The Legal Aid Clinic is wholly funded by the government of Dominica, and it is sometimes recognized by the Criminal High Court at arraignments where persons are called upon to plead either guilty or not guilty on indictable charges and are unrepresented by attorneys in a private bar. The clinic will assist in obtaining the services of these attorneys who volunteer their services at a reduced rate or free in order to facilitate the fair and just working of the adversarial system of trial by judge and jury. In many jurisdictions in the English-speaking Caribbean and elsewhere, the judges comment that the legal aid, in Dominica, one judge out of the, in the recent past, out of 3 or 4 that have been assigned to Dominica by the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, commented that the legal aid clinic in most jurisdictions are operated by NGOs, non-government organizations, and funded by charitable organizations and other agencies, whilst in Dominica it is the government that maintains this service. It must be noted that the Criminal High Court, especially in homicide and sexual matters, is very much dependent on legal representation for accused persons in order that the trial proceeds fairly and is seen by the accused and the general public to be conducted fairly in order to have a just outcome in verdict and, where applicable, in sentencing. This commitment by government has certainly improved citizens' access to justice over the past 14 years. We'll just give a rundown on the matters that have been dealt with. Adoptions, there have been 3 for the year, that is 2023. Affidavit of identity, 11. Appeals, 3. Bail applications, 4. Case stated, 2. Caveats, 3. Certificates of title, 31. Consultations, 115. Court forms, 30. Deed of gift, 5. Deed of guardianship, 3. Divorces, 37. Independent legal advice, 4. Legal representation, 25. Letters, 25. Letters of administration, 15. Mediation, 5. Non-profit organization registration, 3. Police station interviews, 10. Protection orders, 4. Statutory declarations, 65. And wills, 10. Now, I must know that statutory declarations, most of them deal with amending or registering child's birth. And it is necessary that the general public are aware of the process of registering children when they are born. The names and the mother's name is normally sent down to the registry, but it requires the individuals to attend to the registry to make sure the names are properly spelled, all the names are included, and especially the father's name is included, and the father has to be present. The mother can't say so-and-so is the father and it's entered. The father has to be present to consent. And over the years, even when I was in private practice, that is a recurring problem, that when persons have to sit common entrance, when they have to go to university, when they have to travel, many times they have to seek emergency work to get their names properly documented. So this is one of the areas we'd like to draw to the attention of the general public, that it is their duty to ensure from the outset, because inside of the first year of the birth of the child, that process is done free. But as long as that first year passes, it requires a statutory declaration, affidavit type of matter, which has a cost to it. And it's more with the private attorneys than it is with the legal aid clinic. It is obvious that the legal aid clinic would be hard-pressed to deal with all matters, especially when the private bar depends on the public support. We would like to thank the Ministry of National Security, the Minister, for his support over the years. And there are areas where the legal aid clinic could be more proactive in informing the public of the type of services that we provide and the requirements that are needed for certain matters. But due to the fact that we have a limited staff, we depend on the public's general knowledge of the availability of the legal aid clinic so that they can walk in and seek our services. Otherwise, we thank the general public for their cooperation and especially their patience, because legal matters are not something that can happen overnight. We have a saying in the office, your bad planning cannot be our emergency. So we ask people to plan their affairs in such a way that they can be accommodated. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Arlene. I will now call on the Honorable Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs. Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Give me one, Janet.
For the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs end-of-year press conference, and we heard three presentations from the heads of the Office of Disaster Management, Mrs. Janelle Gary McPherson, National Disaster Coordinator acting, and she gave a rundown of the ODM for 2023, as well as from Mr. Itoma James, Acting Senior Met Officer from the Met Services, Dominica Met Services, and he revealed that Dominica can now go straight to the National Hurricane Center to issue alerts before we had to rely on the Barbados Met Services before putting out any alerts for the island. And lastly, we heard from Mr. Peter Allen, Director of the Legal Aid Clinic here in Dominica, and we are going over to question and answer round.
This question was supposed to be for the minister.
Okay. Anybody with a question?
You want to ask another?
Yeah, well, yeah. Let me. I will ask the police chief acting. I'll ask him one question in the meantime. And that has to do with the theft of firearms at the St. Joseph Police Station. Now, Mr. Valerie, we are aware that some regional officers were in Dominica to investigate that matter, with the theft of firearms at the St. Joseph Police Station. Can you bring us an update in terms of that theft at the police station in St. Joseph, and whether in fact the regional officers have already ended their task, and what is the way forward?
The officers who are involved in the investigations locally are conducting that investigations. The nature of these investigations is such that I cannot give you detailed information on what the investigations are revealing at this time, but I can tell you that we are continuing to conduct investigations into the matter, and we have the support of Impacts in that investigation. Thank you.
Alrighty, we'll get back to the questions. I now call on the Honorable Minister for National Security and Legal Affairs to give some remarks.
Thank you very much, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs. I also want to recognize in our mix the Acting Chief of Police, the Chief Magistrate, the Registrar of Companies, and the Senior Administrative Officer in the Ministry, and the other persons who are here representing the various departments. I know the Director of Public Prosecution will be there momentarily. I also want to recognize the head of the prisons and his deputy, also the deputy chief was actually sitting in for the chief of fire chief. And I want in a special way to really commend the presenters this morning. Put you on second for them. The reason why I'm doing that because they're all very new in the positions. And I want to also apologize for the AG's chambers. The AG is currently traveling, and we wish the Solicitor General well. She's on a maternity leave. And we hope that she have a healthy and beautiful baby. I also want to highly commend Mr. Allen. Mr. Peter Allen really and truly has demonstrated, working for the good of humanity. I can recall coming against him at the High Court in a murder trial, and I'm not going to absolute details. And the way he fought, obviously I won. The way he fought, and I understood thereafter that he did it for free. I won. I can recall, if you can recall, that the judge at the time commended me for the manner in which I gave evidence, and hope that other officers were there to have taken notes as to how evidence should have been given at the Supreme Court level. So he fought, but did not fight hard enough, but he did it for free. And the reason why we made the determination to choose 3 departments this morning, because sometimes vital information gets lost when you have too many presenters. And because we are coming off from the most devastating hurricane in the history of man, and what this government has done, and the tremendous emphasis the Prime Minister has placed in the whole issue of resilience, and how important resilience is to mitigate against the possibilities of disasters, more so as we're prone to hurricanes. So I believe that development must not be perceived and understood within the standpoint of physical infrastructure, wonderful roads, nice houses, etc. But the things we have done, you cannot see. And when you listen this morning to Itoma, James, and to see what we have been able to do in this small country over the years, not only to put in place the physical infrastructure, but to work on the whole issue of the human capital, the trained human capital, which is essential to taking us to the next level. And when we have moved to a point in the development of the country where we can do our own forecasting, not having to depend on other players, I think that demonstrates that Dominica is moving forward, and we are on the path of sustainable development as a small island state. The Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs is mandated to uphold that mandate for a safer and more just country. And you have heard we do that through the various departments and functionalities within the ministry. And you have heard from 3 heads this morning, and you have gotten an appreciation as to the work we have done over the years. I want this morning just to reference some of the items that may have been lost in the presentation this morning. I want to start firstly on the whole issue of ODM and how we have been able as a country to work on improving significantly our response, emergency response infrastructure over the years. Reference was made to the hurricane shelters in Casa Bruce and Jimmy, but I think they are not only of simply buildings, but the functionalities that they have. In Casa Bruce, for matter of fact, we have storage for water underground, 80,000 gallons. And that can be used after a major disaster to help the villagers in that community to get water. In Jimit, you're talking about 100,000 gallons of water that's actually stored underground. And you're talking about a power backup system that's able to give power to the close neighbors in the area. And industrial type stoves, sick bays, etc. All those things are contained in those buildings. And the wonderful thing that we have been able to do, and we have seen it manifesting itself in both the communities of Jimit and Castle, is that these facilities have been used for social events, because we have, of course, the resource center component. People are getting married using the facilities, and different conferences have been held in those facilities. And that was the intention of doing what we did, deliberately building those buildings, not only for disaster time, but when we do not have disasters. And I think the government and the people of Dominica must be commended for that. We want to take this opportunity again to express our gratitude to our partners, the European Unions, for actually funding those two facilities. Now, reference was made to what we have been able to do over the years, and that speaks to our resilience. Now, immediately after a storm or disaster, is the whole issue of the country's ability to establish communication. And that is why the acting head of ODM made reference to our telecommunication radios. But we also have in storage 66 satellite phones. And because when a traditional communication network flow, digital is down, we have to be able to make contact with the rest of the world locally. And those satellite phones will be made available to the first responders, the community nurses, the village council people, and the community development officers. And that is the kind of focus and deliberate focus the government has put on the whole issue of resilience. Now, we're able to actually to decentralize the whole issue of our ability to store emergency supplies. When I became the minister the first time around, we were talking about specialized containers retrofitted for that purpose of storing emergency supplies. We have gotten to the point where we have now regional operating centers built in one Cotton Hill and Castle Bruce. The one in Castle Bruce cost $2.8 million, and the one in Cotton Hill, $2.4 million. And those were funded by SOFCOM from the United States of America. That's the component of the Army. It's called the United States Southern Command. And we want to commend them for the support over the years for helping Dominica to navigate through turbulent time and to be able to stand up on our feet. The other issue that is critical, having the shelters is one thing. We have been able, working in concert with the various players, the local government department, to train, thus far, 223 people in shelter management. And that is significant. So we have to ensure that we have the trained human resource component to man those facilities, and we have been able to do that over the years. And going forward, more emphasis will be placed on training. And that is the mandate I've given to ODM staff, is to ensure that by the end of the year, that every village council chairperson and personnel, community nurse, district development officer, will be trained as to how to use telecommunication radios. That is critical. And so we're working on that and working with a number of communities, starting, of course, with the most vulnerable localities within the country, Castle Bruce, the Karinago territory, and in the southern part of the country, and to help the communities to develop plans. How do you respond, evacuation plans? And of course, we are simulation exercises in Castle Bruce. Not only that we did the plan for them, but we worked with them and had those exercises in the event that we have a real situation, how do we respond going forward? We'll be doing that as the year progresses in other aspects of disaster. And you heard from the head of ODM, we made reference to that. I also want to speak here this morning to the whole issue of what we have been able to do, and the chief magistrate is there. Access to the court is critical. And it has various dimensions. And that is why we brought in the Director of Legal Aid to speak to the whole issue of the ordinary folks who may not have the opportunity to access the kind of finance that one would require to get a proper lawyer, and to ensure that we provide that service at almost nothing to the various people who may need to be represented at the court, who may need to actually the type of service, especially in divorce matters. Sometimes you have, and most times, the person who is affected the most is the lady. And the whole issue of having access to a lawyer is an issue, and to actually give effect to a divorce that you want to get out of. And I'm happy, of course, the Legal Aid has been able to provide those services, and will continue going forward to ensure that every Dominican who does not have the financial means to counsel gets that opportunity. That is absolutely important for this administration. And I've heard the Prime Minister made reference to that on many occasions. And we're very much passionate about that, to ensure that everyone has the right to counsel, even if you do not have the financial means so to do. So the Legal Aid Department is providing human service to this country. So the access of the whole issue of having access to the court should not be viewed from a one-dimensional standpoint, but also someone's ability or lack thereof to have access to the court. And access to the court also means your right to an attorney. And that is what is significant in the presentation from Mr. Allen this morning. And again, I want to commend you, sir. And I think we're ideally placed to have someone who has been working for free over the years, for the past 30 years, to be head in that division. That demonstrates our commitment as a transparent and responsible government who is responsible for meeting the needs of all and sundry within the political and social landscape of this country. I want to speak briefly about what we have been able to do at the registry. You may recall, after Hurricane Maria and thereafter, people were walking the street with the ropes. They're right to do so. And notwithstanding that, every building in this country was affected. And of course, the public buildings were no exception. The building housed in the registry upstairs of the Magistrate Court was actually almost a dysfunctional stage. And the courts were so affected too. But we have been able to spend over $3 million to retrofit 2 floors upstairs of the post office to relocate the registry, inclusive of the Supreme Court. Now, just last week, I took upon myself just to go there and do a major walk and to try to speak to the people who are coming to actually fetch the services at the registry. I mean, the common services you have, of course, birth certificate and other issues, other vital life certificates, marriage, etc., and so on. Bill of sale, and just name it. And so we have gotten to a stage where not only the physical outlook of the place has been significantly enhanced, but of course, having a building is one thing, but is the building being properly utilized and to provide the service that is meant to provide? Because when somebody comes from a place as far as the Carinago territory, or Toronto in Casablanca, that person may not have even had some coffee to drink. And that person takes his little $20 in, maybe the last one he or she may have had, to come to Roseau. And you know a lot of people live in the countryside, do not like to come to Roseau. They come there for a particular purpose, and when they come, that purpose has to be realized. And having to be told that you have to go back and come back. So we have gotten to the stage where if you have everything that you need to have, within 3 minutes, you can get your birth certificate. And I think that is remarkable. And those things are not being spoken of. So we must not amplify things when they're not working too well, because Dominica's problem are no more than other countries' problem. Even the first world countries have their own problems. So I believe that we are making progress as a country and as a people. The other issue I want to make reference to is what we have been able to do to standardize the manner in which the magistrate court operates, especially in the city, in the Rosa City area. And we now have, well, 6 courts. They're not 6 courts, 6 locations properly demarcated that can be used as courts. As we speak, we're working on improving or increasing the human resource component. We have an additional magistrate who has arrived on Ireland, and he landed, I was told, on the 29th, and then he's ready to go. And from what I've been advised by the chief magistrate, that he'll be operating in the northern part of the country, in Portsmouth, to be more specific. We, during the course of the months and thereafter, we'll be looking to appoint or to engage, so to speak, 2 additional magistrates, and so that, because most of the criminal matters are dealt with at the magistrate court level. So we want to ensure that not only have we have the personnel, but we have proper systems in place to ensure that cases can be held in a timely fashion. And having said that, one of the things we will be doing is, just as we have a register of titles, a register of companies, and a general registrar, a registrar general for the Supreme Court and registry, we will be also engaging someone as a registrar of the magistrate court, so that cases can be properly planned and scheduled. And those things we can do as a government, but at the end of the day, the magistrates are the one controlling the courts. We were looking forward that for the purpose of the proper administration of justice, because we have a number of indictable cases that are paper committal. What does that mean? It speaks for itself. Both parties, the lawyer representing the defendant or the accused, and the state have agreed on the written statements and the evidence collected. So it seems to me what needs to be done at the magistrate court level is almost automatic committal to the High Court. And we have seen that lawyers now want to have a trial within a trial, and that too in itself undermine the proper administration of justice and can cause backlog. What the government can do and what we will do is to provide, from a policy standpoint, the personnel, proper accommodation, and to ensure that there are proper systems in place. But at the end of the day, the management of the court is resident on those who are sitting on the bench. I want to also, with your permission, before you take a question, make reference to the state prisons. Just last week again, the chief of police and myself had a very good meeting with the general staff, just to encourage them. And before, we met with the management of the prisons, and I've been meeting regularly with the management and the general staff, because the prisons actually, by law, whoever the minister is responsible for the prisons. So I'm not somebody who hide, and I want to actually publicly recognize the help of the minister. We also had the opportunity to have a meeting with the Prime Minister, which was called by the Prime Minister, including the management of the prisons, etc., and Permanent Secretary, the Chief of Police, and myself, because people have to have the confidence that when people are sentenced to prison, that they are kept and properly secured. And the issue of safety of a society is also measured by the state ability to ensure that prisoners are properly secured. But a prison universally has its challenges. What I have done as the minister, we have mandated the prison to grow its own food, starting with provision. And because it costs the state almost $10,000 a month just to buy dashing for the prisons. Well, the fact is, the laws have to be observed. A prisoner has his or her right, and the law also mandates that all prisoners must be given a particular quantum of meat, or whatever. That's what the law says, and we have to ensure that prisoners are properly cared for and they're properly secure. But that having been said, a prison is not a home setting. In that regard, therefore, at all levels, inmates have to be properly supervised. So what we have started at the prison is what we call a farm program. And I want to really commend the prison management team, and the farm project is being supervised and managed by the acting assistant superintendent of prisons, Mr. Edmond, and I want to commend you for that. But we have to ensure that when prisoners are on the farm working, that they're properly supervised too, because the minister cannot go when somebody escapes and just speak about it, because sometimes you can't explain it, you get my point. But the last escape, or the previous escape that we have had, involved people who are actually working on the farm. So even if you have, what we're trying to do is not only have a farm program, but to actually use it as a program to rehabilitate inmates who want to become good farmers when they leave the prison setting. We're also working on this animal husbandry program, so inmates can be taught the fundamentals of that. So when they go to, if those who are inclined, so inclined to follow that program, when they leave the prison setting, they can easier actually absorb into the mainstream society, because they would have had a skill. So that is working fine. I've been told there are thousands of dashing plants, and we also have to working on the whole issue of vegetables, not only for the prisons, but what the intention is for the surplus in dashing and vegetables on provision, other provision, so that the hospital and infirmary can be assisted in the event we have surplus. And that is the kind of outlook that I want as a minister for the prison going forward, because we have the labor force there. So let us utilize the labor force properly. I want to also take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the Ministry of Agriculture for working with the prisons to develop the program. We are also working in concert with the Youth Division. A building now is being retrofitted to have a sewing module for the inmates. We have also trying to partner with the State College so that inmates who want to be taught or want to learn how to become good mechanics in the area of electronics, and can partake in those programs. So I believe there are some inmates who have to be kept away for a long time, but there are some who can be reformed and should be allowed a second chance going forward. We are working with the prisons as we speak. One of the challenges we have had over the years is the whole issue of the secondary fence. We have started construction of it, and we are recommencing the construction of it. So at the completion of the secondary fence, it will be highly impossible for anyone to call maintain an inmate as escaped, because there will be no more crevices, from what I've seen, as someone going all the time for inmates to escape. And having said that, there are two fences before you get to the secondary fence. So what the secondary fence will be a fence overlooking the Fokole community. Always next to that area there is almost like a precipice. But we're ensuring that, and the point we have gotten now in the construction of the secondary fence is in the most dangerous section of the premises. So we're hoping within the next month or so to see the completion of that project. So I want to commend the prison officers. It's a very challenging job, that notwithstanding, and to hold strong and to ensure that, and don't get vexed with me, because the rules of the prisons were there before me. And the rule says that objects are not allowed in cells. As the minister, I will never tolerate the giving of cornflakes, peanut butter, and with other kitchen utensils, listening devices to prisoners in a cell. Everything, the way you're fed has to be supervised. And a prison is not a home setting. So if you want to have cornflakes in your room, and if you want to have peanut butter in your room, you want to have cell phones in your room, and listening devices, do your best to remain at home and to comply with the laws of this country. But under my watch, no conflicts and other food items and objects that are not permissible by law will be allowed in the prison cells. If you want to watch TV, that has to be supervised. And so, unless we get that within our psyches, that a prison is not a home, if we have to get to that point, when the magistrate or the judge commits somebody to jail, the magistrate or the judge will say to you, you can stay at home, and all you have to do not go out, and the police will stay by the roadside. That was never the intention of a prison. I will support, as you know, and lead the cause to have proper reform programs. As we speak, we have finalized the design for a rehabilitation center so that vocational skills can be taught in a standardized manner at the prison. We're working on the costing. Those are the things we have to do. But when somebody has been sentenced to prison, more so, if somebody is sentenced to prison for murder, that person has to be in maximum security. The person has to be allowed to exercise, to have his meals, but that person should not find himself 1 month after being sentenced in a garage working, almost unsupervised. So these are the things we have to address going forward, and I'll take responsibility as a minister, but those of us who are paid to do our job have to appreciate what our responsibilities, fundamental responsibilities are that we have. In closing, let me just again thank all of you, the various heads. I just saw the Director of Public Prosecution walking in, and to commend you for your tremendous work over the years. It's not easy, and we'll continue to work together to uphold our mandate within the ministry, and to recognize fundamentally that we are responsible to the people of Dominica. We provide a service to the people of Dominica. The police force is responsible to the people of Dominica. The registry is responsible to the people of Dominica. The court has a responsibility to society. And if we can see that within that perspective, it's going to be much easier for us. And the people of Dominica will support us when they have the confidence that we recognize what our fundamental responsibilities are as paid public servants. I wish you well. I'm waiting for the questions. I want to take this opportunity to publicly congratulate the Acting Chief of Police, Mr. Valerie, for your appointment. I'm confident that you will do well. And we worked together in CID, and you always gave me the respect with CID. And it took a while to still call me Sarge, even after I entered politics, but now, you're Chief of Police now. And I know that you have an appreciation for parking the vehicles and walking while people are asleep. Parking the vehicles and walking to the communities of Mount Daniel, like walking Castle Comfort, walking all these localities there when people are asleep, and walking the bayside, searching boats. Policing is a labor-intensive work. It cannot be left to the phones and the vehicles. I also want to recognize and congratulate Mr. Jeffrey James. Mr. Jeffrey James, in my view, from what I know, is a model of a police officer. A very good investigating officer, and I think he'll do well in that position as Assistant Commissioner of Police, specifically for crimes and operation. And again, his skills and seriousness and commitment came to the fore with the last double murder we had, and when no one slept. And I can recall the days in CID, Mr. Valerie, when there was a murder, we did not sleep. You get my point. We had to stay on the job until that was solved. And that is what we're trying to do in our community outreach program with the police. To hear from the public and to get the police to realize that they have a responsibility to the public. The police cannot only be seen in the public when they're responding to a complaint or a report. The police has to be an integral part of the community for the express purpose of preventing crime, and when you cannot prevent crime, you have to try to solve them. And that can only be done when you're actually within the community where you are working. So all the best, Mr. Valerie and Mr. James, and let us hope that the leadership that they demonstrate will get the force to be even more professional. I have the highest regard for the police force in this country. I also want to take this opportunity to recognize the Chief Magistrate for being there today and for what you're doing. And we'll work with you. I know you want more men, and you'll get more men on the bench. I'm working towards that. I know you're smiling. Every time you hear about new magistrate, you're smiling. And the Deputy Fire Chief representing the fire, and Mr. Litter is a model of a fire officer. And always been responsive, always there. And one of the departments I've said over the years since I've been there that I really emerged as a real professional organ within the government structure is the fire department. And when you come in the fire, it's not only responding to fire, but search and rescue. And you have to be over precipice, hovering on a line, trying to rescue people. Whenever there is something at the Trafalgar Falls, they're the ones who have to go there. And so a lot of stuff, things are being done by the fire department that we do not see and hear about. I also want to finally recognize Mr. Farrell and all the other people who are here this morning for your determination and leadership over the years. Thank you very much.
All right, so we are ready to engage with the press. So let loose with your questions. Curtis, you are already on the floor.
Yes, I have two questions for the Minister, Mr. Blackmore. Yeah, one of the questions is in relation to Haitian nationals in Dominica. Mr. Blackmore, has there been any decisions taken on Haitian nationals in Dominica in terms of Can you tell us about the results of these gun amnesties? I think there were 2 of them. And what is the way forward? You also announced, Mr. Blackmore, that following this gun amnesty, the government may seek to go to Parliament to amend the laws. Can you bring us up to date on the position with the gun amnesty incident last year? If I have a chance, I'll ask a question to Mr. Farrell and the Director of Public Prosecutions. Thank you very much.
The first question speaks to work permits for Haitian nationals. Which is current residents in the ministry within the Department of Labor. It is not in the Department of the ministry. As we speak, but that having been said, I'm not aware of the government having any policy that discriminates against any national. For matter of fact, I've been fortunate to have been in the recent past at a number of meetings regionally. And I believe Dominica is the only English-speaking country who have been very generous towards the nation nationals, allowing them to come to this country. What I can say, in terms of work permits, the law stipulates the procedure that has to be followed. and that has to be. Once that is followed, from what I know, that there's no issue in issuing work permits to any national in this country, absolutely none, once that law, when the law is followed. So one of the things that we have to understand is it's also a country of laws. It's not a wash your foot and come. Sometimes somebody will say, okay, I want a work permit. From my experience, I've been a past minister, but I'm self-employed, but there's no evidence of that. Are you being self-employed? Are you paying taxes? Are you registered? And those fundamental issues there. And then the whole issue of having a sponsor. And if a corporation wants to employ any national, non-national, the law stipulates you have to advertise to actually allow locals the opportunity to apply. So those are the basic issues that I think every national, irrespective as to where you come from, non-national, sorry, have to follow. The other one, yes, yeah.
Do you have information whether work permits have been issued to Haitian nationals over the last 6 months? Huh?
No longer within the ministry. But what I can say to you, as I said to you just now, that once you meet the criteria under the law, irrespective of the nationality, I do not know of the government having any policy discriminating against any national. Yeah.
With the gun amnesty.
Yes. No. In 2011, this government, of course, in 2007, I was the minister then, we had a similar program. And the importance of that program demonstrated a certain degree of good faith on the part of the government. It allows people to think and to make to make their own determination whether to keep an illegal firearm, and the possibility of you having been caught and to face the consequences. Then thereafter, in 2011, we actually repealed the then gun laws and had very, very stringent penalties stipulated in that law. The intention of listening to if you go back to the Hansard then, and you listen to the debate in Parliament at the time, the intention of the government was actually felt. You could have seen that anybody found with an illegal firearm should be dealt with by the court seriously. The current law, as we speak, has very stringent penalties. It can be fined and confined, but the minister or the prime minister cannot sit on the bench. You understand what I'm saying? So but then we had a conference, and just a couple of weeks ago, I was part of the conference. We were working on the firearms roadmap for the Caribbean. For a matter of fact, we'll be hosting a seminar sponsored by Impacts on the United Nations in Dominica in May on that very fundamental issue, because we have led the way in speaking about the need for more stringent laws, and because our young men are dying. And we have a collective responsibility as a society to deal with it. Not only the police or the minister or the prime minister, we as a society. And I'll speak to the hypocrisy in some of us. All right? The fact of the matter is, then we had this recent gun amnesty program. I want to commend the lawyers in criminal private practice and the churches who came out in support. But some of the same folks, every time a young man or somebody is shot and killed, there's a big hoopla, and they paint it up, and this is scary to causing that, and etc. And when it's time to act, they're hiding, because for crime to actually grow, it has to be encouraged. So you have what you call a sutiwe. So when we had this program, these very same folks who were talking about the need for the government to do something, were discouraging people to surrender their illegal firearms. They were discouraging. I never heard members of the media questioning that. You get my point. So the responsibility is not resident within the Prime Minister or Blackmore. It's a collective responsibility, parents, neighbors, friends. But when people are benefiting from the proceeds of crime, you can expect the law of silence. So I am happy. So we had 3 people who did what they felt was right, and they surrendered the illegal firearm. One may say was not a success, but those are free people and free firearms out of the hands of people, because a gun, an illegal firearm, you have it to do something. And there's a nexus between the drug trade and people with illegal firearm. So that's why this thing is so important. Now, this program has actually expired. As we speak, we have also retained the services of the former Attorney General of Dominica and a regional professional in the area of drafting, legal drafting, Mr. Anthony Laron, who is currently on contract with this government, working on a number of important pieces of legislation. And as I speak, he's looking at the Firearm Act and looking at the area of sentencing to make it more difficult for people who will be found thereafter that amendment with illegal firearms, make it more difficult for them to walk the streets. The fact of the matter is, we have something what do you call it again? Sentencing guidelines. But it's been used conveniently, so to speak. But I mean, once you give, from my understanding, once you give reasons why you're departing from it, you can actually implement the intention of this act, as we speak, is a very serious act. We're also looking at the Bail Act. We're one of the only countries in the region that with a Bail Act. And we're looking at the Bail Act to make it tighter, so that because when somebody, you and I growing up, I mean, you and I went to school together, when somebody kills somebody, I mean, it was almost automatic that the person would not have been granted bail. You get my point? That is different now. We're in a different society. You have people with the liberal views of the law, understand? And they instead of interpreting the law for what it is, they apply, the way they think about society, the way they think about the law. And then so you have convenience there. Convenience, and we speak about the principle of the, we got again, the doctrine of separation, of powers of separation. When you say the court is independent, so the whole doctrine of power of separation is being conveniently actually applied. So the court is independent, because you have the executive, the parliament. But parliament is the institution that is responsible for making laws. Okay, not the other way around. But having said that, people, once you have statute, written law, it's not a question of looking at precedent, but you have written law. It says that if a man is found with an illegal firearm or ammunition or component, that X should be done or B should be done. That's what the law says. Okay, so I mean, I'm not saying that. So I'm happy you asked the question, but my question to you, how many times I heard you and your personal friend, as a leading journalist in the country, calling on the Dominicans that they can't amnesty of a very loud voice. Yeah? I mean, my advice, and you have influence. My advice, listen, let me finish. You asked a question.
You want me to answer that, Mr. Blackmore?
No, listen, okay? I'm advising you, to bring in your illegal firearms. I never heard that from you. You see? But, yeah, so I'm saying there has to be responsibility as responsible citizens at all fronts. You get my point? So the mistake we're making in this country is to believe that when we do these things, it's scary the Prime Minister we are affecting. We have a fundamental responsibility to the legacy that we leave behind. I think we're making a fatal mistake, a cardinal mistake, to misconstrue our responsibility as responsible adults. And everything in this country is about politics. And this is very dangerous. So everybody now will respond to things because they belong to a particular political altar. You understand? So they're drinking the same wine, and they're taking the same communion, and they're singing from the same hymn sheet. This is absolutely dangerous. So I'm happy that you asked that question, but I wanted to say that a long time. So and finally, I want to commend and show my appreciation for the lawyers in private practice, especially Mr. Bienzin, and you had others, Mr. Alien, and the other lawyers, the DPP is there, and Father Branca, John, Father Journalist, and Pastor Randy. Those were the voices I heard. Everybody else was very quiet. And those people who believe politics is more important than the country, were on the radio saying, don't worry, Blackmore, hold on, you're gone. Is it? Any other question you have there?
Next question is for the Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Shema Del Rampo. Yeah, thank you. Madam DPP, there is a concern among many people in Dominica at the moment that a number of matters have been discontinued at the High Court level over the last few months. So cases to do with murder and others have been discontinued. Can you at least tell us the process involved in discontinuing these very important matters at the High Court level?
In respect of that, I know for this session, no murders have been discontinued. You spoke to murders. We have absolutely no murders which is discontinued for this session. The power to discontinue lies in the Director of Public Prosecutions. The Director of Public Prosecutions is not obligated to give any decision why a matter is being discontinued. Because of the public interest, and I know the concern that has been raised that certain matters have been discontinued, for the past four matters that were discontinued, I have given the court reasons, and I have stated to the court the flaws in certain matters, in the evidence in certain matters as to why they had to be discontinued. So my office understands the public interest in respect of discontinuing a matter, and we have started to give the court reasons, though we are not obligated to.
So you're saying that you basically, as DPP, you can defend any matter in terms of you discontinuing these matters?
Yes, at the end of the day, a prosecutor has to abide to the code of prosecutors in respect of discontinuing matters. We have to weigh the victim's rights against that of the public interest. We also have to look at the evidence in the matters and what interest the state has in respect of the matter being put forward or being discontinued. The past matters we've had, the evidence fell way too short to engage in prosecuting of the matters, and as such, they were discontinued.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, somebody else. Huh? Take the call? Okay.
My questions are to the Honorable Minister and the Acting Chief of Police. Mr. Blackmore, how well are we doing in terms of cybercrime in Dominica? I see Mr. Farrell here. Are we doing okay? Because, I mean, we live in a technologically advanced age, and we see what's happening on the internet and so on. But it's important too that our men and women in the force be well trained in that area. How are we doing in fighting cybercrime? And my second question is to the Acting Chief of Police. So how well are we doing in the police community program that you have been holding lately? What's the response like from the public? Is it worth it? Thanks.
Sometimes last year we had a workshop where a number of people were invited on the issue of cybercrime, and we're working on towards even establishing a specific unit for that, drawing from the talent from the different ministries, and to ensure that we have the requisite training. Impacts and RSS have been providing actually support in that regard. Within our own local infrastructure, as we speak, we're looking at the Electronics and Communication Bill, which will help because you have to have the whole issue of protection of data is also very important. That also speaks to that in a significant way. That has been finalized. And there are various dimensions to fight cybercrime. And for a matter of fact, I can recall even one issue, the whole issue of drones. I'm flying out drones and information that is collated, the drones, how do you regulate these things? So all these things we're looking at. Within the police force, we had the opportunity to send a gentleman to China. We're able to actually look at certain information on people's phone, cell phones, etc., to analyze steps to that. We have a certain level of competence in that. We will grow as going forward, as I said, in due time to establish a unit with all the requisite skill sets to actually superintend over a very important issue. I'll just speak about that there. There's something I'd like to say as a citizen. What we have seen with the advent of various social media platforms is the emergence of a number of news outlets. And once you're involved in news reporting, the code of ethics is something that you have to be mindful of, because that is an area that calls for training. And it calls for a certain level of discretion and respect to one's privacy also, and you have to have what you call emotional intelligence. We see that sometimes things happen in the most graphic form, and that thing is just instantaneously, but we're speaking to the global community. So can you imagine that you left your home and you said goodbye to your daughter or your significant other who you're married to, and well-dressed going to work, and the next 5 minutes thereafter, she's seeing you on the ground, on the road, okay, with blood and a lifeless body. So I'm saying, and sometimes, again, the police are involved in certain operation, traffic check, and you have people saying, and saying that the police is sitting there and there, etc. So all those things undermine the whole question of the administration of justice. So I'm saying these things because we have a collective responsibility as responsible citizens. So we have to also think of having some seminars for people who are involved, okay? Because in this kind of random, I call it random news reporting, but using a device that has global reach and implication. So we in this government is not about censoring anything. We believe in people making individual choices and having within themselves a sense of decency, a sense of what you call emotional intelligence, which is so important, to understand certain things that you should not do or you cannot do within your conscience. So it doesn't really have to take a law, but these are things we have to look at going forward as to how do we manage these things. So it's a broad discussion and it's a very broad topic going forward. Thank you.
Yes, in relation to your question on community policing, I can say that we have been making some steady progress. Up to recently, Monday night, we were in the community of Tarishpit, where we had a good representation of the members of that community. Community policing is an initiative that we have embraced, and we are asking the public to embrace it as well. It is an initiative that allows for us to be able to cooperate with our community members, and the cooperation from them will be also given to us, where we have an understanding of what goes on and the dynamics of that community, and we will be able to respond in a way that our officers can understand and perform those duties that are necessary and relevant to the particular community, because it's not a situation where you can put every community in the same category. So we have to understand how the community operates. And one of the ways we do that is to have a connection between the police and members of that community who will dialogue and come up with a work plan that will allow the police and the community to work together. You see, crime is inimical to both the police and the community. When crime occurs in a community, the community suffers. And so we are saying, let us come together and let us understand what is going on. Those people who may be involved in criminal activities can be helped, we can put programs together, and we can have a representation of the police in a way that we have not seen before. And the police presence will be appreciated because the police connects with the community. So we are happy to have this community policing program, this initiative, that will help us to help all of us. And when we do that, each community will benefit. And we are going on aggressively with it. We've just completed Tarish Peak and the initiation there, and we're looking to go to other places. And we want to assure the rest of Dominica that we will come to you. And please prepare, because we want to ensure that there is success in this initiative. Thank you.
As the media is concerned, that would be the final question. To Mr. Farrell, Mackelson Farrell of the Financial Intelligence Unit. Mr. Farrell, can you bring us an outline of your activities at the FIU for the year 2023?
Mr. Matthew, and good afternoon to all. For the period under review, the FIU effectively dealt with a series of cash seizure cases in collaboration with law enforcement authorities, to include the Customs and Excise Division and the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force. The FIU had 3 cases with a cash value of $351,681. 2 of those cases were successfully completed at the court, and the FIU also detained 1 cash seizure in the amount of $295,400. Euro. In the conduct of one of the FIU's function, the unit pursued a number of money laundering investigations, coordinating its activity with other law enforcement agencies, including the Director of Public Prosecution. For the period, 3 prosecutions. It is indicative to note that in 2023, Dominica was successful in obtaining its first money laundering conviction. 1 Venezuelan national was convicted for money laundering and sentenced to 2 years in prison, and the sum of €163,000 was forfeited to the state. For the period in review, the FIU actively worked with other competent authorities in regards to Dominica's mutual evaluation by the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, which commenced on the 14th of December 2021. To the date of the on-site visit by the team of assessors was the 15th to the 20th of August 2022. In July 2023, after debate, discussion at the 56th plenary and working group meeting held in Trinidad and Tobago from May 28th to June 1, 2023, the mutual evaluation report of Dominica was accepted, adopted, and published by the Financial Action Task Force and the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force website. From its inception in June of 2001, the Financial Intelligence Unit played a major role in coordinating Dominica's compliance with the Financial Action Task Force 40 recommendation by assisting in the review and development of legislation, national policy and strategy, guidelines, conducting of national risk assessment, among others. As recommended by CFATF, FIUs are required to play a critical role and coordinating in the relevant country's mutual evaluation process. The resulting mutual evaluation report, along with its suite of accompanying recommendation, require practical engagement by various competent authorities in order to address identified deficiency. During Dominica's mutual evaluation, Dominica did very well, and although I'm not blowing my own trumpet, but in the effectiveness, Dominica received 2 substantial rating, effective rating, and 5 moderate effectiveness rating. And out of the 2 substantial effectiveness rating, IU2, which speaks to cooperation, and IU6, which speaks directly to the work of the FIU. That's basically what the FIU did for the year.
This press conference here of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs here at the Office of Disaster Management.
Within 1 month's period of time, we'll have a next press briefing where all the departments will speak to the people of Dominica and speak to you and to take any questions coming from anyone and to answer you frontally also and in the most factual manner. Thank you very much. And thank again to the heads. Thank you very much.
And we have come to the end of this press conference here of the Ministry of National Security and Legal Affairs, their end of year press conference. And we heard from Mrs. Jana Gary Macpherson from the Office of Disaster Management, the Met Office, Mr. Itoma James, Senior Met Officer Acting, and from Mr. Peter Allen, Dominica Legal Aid Clinic Director, in addition to the Honorable Raven Blackmore, Minister of National Security and Legal Affairs. So we are taking you back to Studio 1 at DBS Radio to continue with regular programming.
This is your nation station, DBS Radio.